push-ups. I've been doing sit-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I've been doing pull-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Thursday edition of the Ysn Power Hour. I am DJ Yoakley, and it's an honor to be joined by you guys riding shotgun with me here today. Looking forward to the show, a lot to talk about, and just when you thought we were done talking about the Browns quarterback situation, more legal trouble for Deshaun Watson is on the horizon, because that's the most Browns thing I've ever heard in my life. Guaranteed $230 million, and the guy still isn't off the hook for criminal charges. We're going to talk about that at length. So if you are not looking forward to Deshaun Watson talk today, you might want to skip out for a little bit, because it is all the news and all the rage here in Northeast Ohio, and Browns fans don't know what to do with themselves. They were conflicted before. I can only imagine what this is going to bring to the table right now. So without further ado, hey, we got a new graphic, so we got to use it. It is Today in Sports History. I love new graphics. I love whenever there's segues into it. And today in sports history, March 24th, 1979, Magic Johnson got 10 rebounds, 10 assists, as the Spartans cruise to a 101-67 through Penn. I think it's just Penn. It says Penn. Michigan State's Earvin Magic Johnson registers a triple-double with 29 points, as well as those 10 rebounds, 10 assists. You don't see that too much anymore in the NCAA tournament, as Magic Johnson, still, I think, one of the greatest of all time. I'm not ready to put him up there with Jordan or LeBron, but Bird and Magic, I mean, that's like peanut butter and jelly. That's lamb and tuna fish. That is spaghetti and meatball. If you don't get those references, you need to watch more Adam Sandler films. Magic Johnson, how do I put this without getting a ton of hate mail? A one-of-a-kind talent. An absolute one-of-a-kind talent. A guy that was so in front of his days. You know, so built for this era. However, he played in the 80s and the 90s. You know, Magic Johnson's, if you kids don't know how good Magic Johnson was, and I was too young to remember how great he was, so I've been watching YouTube videos, and I've actually been watching the Michael Jordan and Bulls documentary again, The Last Dance, and one of my favorite chapters from that is the Dream Team, where Magic Johnson, I mean, Jordan, Bird, Malone, Charles Barkley, you name it, the Dream Team, and the most uber competitive people were guys like Magic Johnson. So if you don't know Magic Johnson, get to know Magic Johnson on YouTube. It's a fairly popular website where you can go and look up things that are new and old and up and coming. So check it out on YouTube. You can also check and subscribe to YSN on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get all the notifications when all of our stuff goes live, even the stuff that nobody knows about yet. Little pro tip for you: when we put things on the web, we put it on YouTube first, so you can be the first to see new interviews and new things of that nature on Ysn. Go and subscribe to YouTube if you haven't already. All you got to do is click that subscribe button. All right, a lot to talk about, and I've been getting a ton of messages about this, so let's break it down. A CBSSports.com report is here's the title: Deshaun Watson legal trouble, second grand jury to consider indictment against Browns star quarterback. Uh-oh. And I've already gotten a couple messages. Enough with Deshaun Watson, you're local, yes, we know what we are. Trust me, we 100% know who we are and what we are about. But when there's stuff like this that comes out, and you've got a bunch of Browns fans trying to tell you what is legit and not to be worried, Cleveland, my friends, this is something to be worried about. This is a nightmare for you. Now, the only saving grace, I will say this to start the segment, you have yet to give up Baker Mayfield. You still have Baker just kind of cradled away, and that hand just kind of holding on to him, and you've got Deshaun Watson, who you're trotting out there like a new shiny toy in the neighborhood. But I think you've gone too far with Baker to ever ask him to try to take a snap for the Cleveland Browns. I've seen so much in the last 72 hours with Cleveland fans that I'm just confused beyond all get out. And hopefully somebody can clarify some of this stuff for me. I've seen Jarvis Landry wants to come back. I've seen OBJ wants to come back. Cleveland, again, I've always said that Cleveland fans don't know whether to be the victim or the champion. Even if they win a championship, they're not ready to give up the victim card yet. They're not ready to throw that out the window and say, hey, we're good now. We don't have to sit here and complain, and we didn't get this, kind of service, or we didn't get this guy or this guy or this guy, or they're constantly in a state of victimization, and it's really interesting. And now you're oh boy, Donnie. Our insurance policy is Jacoby Brissett, super talented quarterback with an exceptional arm. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. I don't. But tell me, where is Deshaun Watson on the Browns scale right now? Up here, right? That's where every Browns fan feels like Deshaun Watson is going to be, even though he hasn't taken a snap in almost 2 years. And where does Jacoby Brissett fall? Somewhere in there. And because when you've got $230 million wrapped up in one guy, like I said yesterday, there's not a whole lot of room for other people on that team. So I'm interested to see, number one, how far the fall is from QB1 to QB2 with Brissett, even though you still got Baker just hanging around. He says better than Keenum. That is spot on, my friend, and that's why you are Donnie Legend Riccatelli. That's a great point. It is better than Keenum. I don't think he's better than Mayfield. I would argue that, and I've said this to a couple of my close friends, Baker Mayfield, and I liked Baker Mayfield. If you recall, if you watched the show often, Baker Mayfield, I feel, is better than any quarterback in the draft this year. Any quarterback in the draft. That's why I'm having a hard time understanding why there's teams going all in for Malik Willis, all teams going in for Kenny Pickett. I mean, when they did a comparison to pro scouts and pro personnel talking about Kenny Pickett, and the best comparison they had was Matt Hasselbeck. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure Matt Hasselbeck was a career and franchise quarterback. He had a couple of nice years with St. Louis, or no, with Seattle, and kind of fell off. I mean, is Matt Hasselbeck Trent Dilfer? Is that where we're gonna go with this? I mean, if you pick a Kenny Pickett, is the best his greatest days are going to be, having a top tier defense in the NFL history, and maybe he gets a Super Bowl out of it. I don't know. I think Baker Mayfield is better than any quarterback in the draft. And call me crazy. You can't call me a homer because he's a Browns guy, and I'm a Steelers guy. Amir says, if used correctly, he will be an all-pro, but there is no room to add talent. That's a rough contract to build around. You're exactly right, Amir. We talked about it yesterday. It's one of those situations where you better be that good of a player and truly an all-pro talent, which he's made. Scotty made the point that he's made Pro Bowls before, but he also made the Pro Bowls on the Texans, and the Texans were in the playoffs twice, maybe? Twice, because he's 1-2 in the playoffs. So you look at that, and a guy that doesn't play well, particularly in temperatures below 40 degrees, Cleveland's typically under 40 degrees in the playoff time. I'm interested, but I think there's an old adage that I was told probably in college, right? Where I love quotes. The juice has to be worth the squeeze. The Browns, they juiced the entire orange on this one. And right now, they're looking like they got a lot of egg on their face, because what out of this entire, and again, this is from the CBSSports.com report of Deshaun Watson in legal trouble with second grand jury considering indictment against Deshaun Watson. Read the article, but there's one quote, 5 words in the entire article that scream out to me. And I'm talking from a scream standpoint. This is a nightmarish, hellish, worst. Those screams that you hear in those scary movies that they're like blood curdling. The quote is, "It's not a new complaint." It's not a new complaint. Rusty Hardin, Watson's attorney, confirmed that the camp is aware of the latest development in the case. Watson is facing 22 different civil lawsuits that all allege sexual misconduct, and according to Hardin, the second grand jury will be hearing evidence based on one of those 22 cases. It's not a new complaint. So one of two things has occurred in the last week, or however long the Browns have been fishing for Deshaun Watson. The first one, and I'm not an attorney, so there could be many more things, but as a someone who's been following this with relative interest, there's two things that have happened or could have happened. Number one, the Browns, as they so often do, did not do their due diligence in this case. They saw an opportunity to make a splash, and they did, to the point where Deshaun Watson said Cleveland's out of the contention in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, and then all of a sudden he's back in because he's going to get $230 million guaranteed. And my good friend Rick Strakansky sent me a message before the show started. He said, define guaranteed. And I gave him two examples, absolute, and for the kids at home, no givesies backsies. My guy just made $230 million, and he may never play football again. And that could bankrupt the Cleveland Browns. This is a Bobby Bonilla situation where Bobby Bonilla has the greatest contract in the history of sports until this guy named Deshaun Watson, he got rewarded for 22 different civil lawsuits against him. The Browns know about it. They put out a public, this is why we believe in Deshaun Watson PR press release bullcrap that only stirred the pot even more from that standpoint. And now it's not a new complaint comes out, and my guy could be facing criminal charges. Literally, Deshaun Watson, there is something in here. There is an option and an opportunity that Deshaun Watson gets paid a ton of money, backs up the Brinks truck right to the back door over in Cleveland, and then takes off and never plays a down of football in Cleveland. That is a feasible chance. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is a chance that happens, and Cleveland will be the laughingstock of the league once again because they will have no wiggle room. They will have no quarterback. You can take Jacoby Brissett. You can do what you want with him, but he's not going to have any talent around him. And oh, by the way, he's been in the league for 10 years. I'm not saying that I'm right, and I'm not saying I'm calling Cowherd, and I'm not trying to be. But I warned you, Browns fans, when this happened, that this was not over by a long stretch. I said he could miss 4 games, 8 games. He could miss a year. I don't think he would miss 2. Now he might never play. Deshaun Watson, who I've heard for the last week since he's become a Cleveland Brown quarterback, is a top 5 talent in the NFL that hasn't taken a snap for nearly 2 years and may never take another snap, is the highest paid player in the National Football League. There's a term for that. It's called getting bamboozled. This agent and Deshaun Watson and the attorney for that case completely bamboozled everybody. But let's get to the second part of that. The first part was Cleveland didn't do their due diligence. I think that's where it is. Because I think they went and they asked, hey, all these criminal charges are going to get dropped, and now you'll just go to a civil case. And Deshaun pleaded the fifth, like he did in that criminal by the grand jury. Plead the fifth for an hour and a half to the Cleveland Browns. What's another time of saying, I plead the fifth? I don't know. I plead the fifth. He did it for an entire day to the grand jury. What's one more time to the Cleveland Browns? But there is the other option. There's the option that Rusty Hardin, Deshaun Watson, the agent, whatever points of contact, POCs, that the Browns had, didn't disclose any information about the upcoming new grand jury charges or possible second grand jury situation, indictment. So there's that. So somewhere along this timeline, somewhere from Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns and everywhere in between, somebody's not telling the truth. It's like that game of telephone, right? It's like that game of telephone where you sit there and somebody says one thing, and by the time it gets to the other end, it's completely different. Only the problem is, there's only 2 ends to the string this time. There's only 2 cans on each end of that string, and somebody's not telling somebody something. I'm interested. I'm interested as an NFL fan. I'm interested as a sports fan. I'm interested because all of those Browns fans who for 18 years sat there and ridiculed Steeler fans and Ben Roethlisberger and everybody that, not because they don't like the Steelers, but because that's all they had, right? I keep getting, that's all we had. We couldn't beat you, so we called your quarterback a sexual deviant. What do you do now? What do you do now? Because a lot of those Browns fans are conflicted. They don't want to chase this guy. They don't want to support this guy. Scotty said it yesterday. I'm not going to buy a Deshaun Watson jersey. I would bet dollars to donuts that if Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns would win a Super Bowl, you'd see 4 jerseys everywhere you looked as far as the eye could see. The same way that Baker Mayfield won one game, unlocked every Bud Light fridge in the city of Cleveland, and 6 jerseys popped up everywhere you looked. Everywhere you looked. The same way that Baker Mayfield won the game against Pittsburgh in the playoffs, and Baker Mayfield was your guy. He was your knight in shining armor. He was the guy that was going to take you to the promised land. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Top 10, top 5. We were talking about this at length on the Power Hour. What happened? What happened? How quickly did Cleveland turn their back on Baker Mayfield, who was their franchise quarterback that they hadn't had for 22 years? The prodigal son had returned. Bernie had changed in to Baker. And now you've got Deshaun. The celebration was short-lived in Cleveland. There's plenty of chance to jump on the bandwagon, I'm sure, right? Plenty of time. Let's get to some comments here. Chris Ziegler says, people forget that the defense couldn't stop anyone last year. Good luck in that loaded AFC. Couldn't agree more. And Donnie Riccatelli says, tank it for CJ Stroud. The Browns don't tank on purpose. The Dolphins do. And now the Dolphins are all in. Kind of like, hey, look at these screw-ups up in Northeast Ohio. Go get Tyreek Hill or something. Like, make a splash so that way nobody thinks that we're tanking anymore. I got my thoughts on that one, too. But yeah, Donnie, CJ Stroud, unfortunately, for the Browns, that could happen. You could be looking at a situation where you're 4-13. How many wins does Jacoby Brissett get you? How many wins does Jacoby Brissett get you in the AFC North alone? Where you have, 6 games that you have to play? Cleveland? Yeah. Well, Cleveland would have to play Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. So you got 6 games in the AFC North alone. With Jacoby Brissett, maybe for a game where there's not a whole lot of tape on him, maybe. For 6 games, I don't like it. I'm saying 1-5 at the best. At best, 1-5 with Jacoby Brissett. Call me crazy again. Call me crazy. So let's put that in perspective, Donnie. Let's say you guys do go 4-13 and you're in the CJ Stroud sweepstakes. Do you take him? Because I just have this crazy feeling that this Deshaun Watson saga is going to go on and on and on and on. It's not one that's going to just go away. Because the Browns are going to want their money back. If this is all true and he faces criminal charges, that is a different ballgame than what they got themselves into. They knew some of that could have happened. They waited, and then all of a sudden, it's back in the game. Front page. Every website in Cleveland is going to have this up, and the questions are going to start. And there's one thing that Browns fans don't do very well, and that's handle adversity. And this guy hasn't even taken a snap yet, and he is going to have the entire city of Cleveland against him. The ones that backed him are going to back off. I guarantee that. So that way you go 4-13, let's say. CJ Stroud's waiting there. You've got $230 million wrapped up in a guy you just gave up. Oh, wait a minute. Time out. I forgot. You don't have a draft pick. You don't have a draft pick for the next 3 years. You're not getting any elite talent. Wait until the 2nd round, 3rd round. Sorry, pal. You're already out of the CJ Stroud sweepstakes. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Leave it to Amo to come in riding the white horse and backing Jacoby Brissett already. He's won 60% of his games, so if suspended for that 6 would roughly be 3 wins. I don't think so. I don't think so. He played in the AFC South, and the Titans were really bad. And everybody knows what the Jacksonville Jaguars are. And the Texans were pretty bad too. So you can take your statistics and you can wiggle them whichever way you want. But I'm just going to say that Jacoby Brissett is not going to win 3 out of 6 games in the AFC North. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen because you got to get into a shootout with Baltimore to win. You're going to have to get into a shootout with Cincinnati to win. And both of those I like Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson a hell of a lot more than I like this cat, Jacoby Brissett. And then you're going to have to go and beat the Steelers defense, which could, by the end of the week, have the honey badger on it, as well as Minka Fitzpatrick. Do I think it happens? Probably not. But there's some people out there that really, really don't want it to happen, and they usually are rooting for a team in purple, a team in black and orange, and a team in brown and orange. That would be very interesting for the Steelers. They already traded their first and third round next year. Yeah, exactly. They're not getting CJ Stroud. They're not, I mean, you want the ultimate swerve? The ultimate swerve for me would have been the Browns go all in and get a quarterback in like the second round this year. Right? Because I think there's going to be quarterbacks that make it. You look at the kid from Brock Purdy. Nobody's talking about him right now. He's from Purdue, I think. No. Where is he from? Somebody help me out where Brock Purdy's from. Iowa State. That's where he's from. So you look at guys like that are going to fall into the second round that are perfect Steelers pickups, by the way. I keep hearing about Malik Willis. We have 75 quarterbacks on the roster right now. The Steelers are collecting quarterbacks like Pogs back in the day, back in the early 2000s and late 90s. And if you don't know what a Pog is, look it up on Google. I mean, they're collecting them like Pokemon. It's and I saw one gentleman said, "Bring in Malik Willis." What the hell are you gonna do with Malik Willis? What, like, if you're a Steelers fan, what are you gonna? How many quarterbacks do you need on a roster? There's typically 2 for the Steelers, maybe 3, and one of them won't get a helmet that week. Stop thinking like all these other teams. You don't need 4 quarterbacks. You don't need 5 quarterbacks. Only one of them can sling the football. Who's going to catch the passes besides Cooper with no high picks and potentially limited cap space? Siggy, another spot on. I would, and if you haven't seen this tweet, go and look up Austin Hooper's tweet about when he was signed by the Titans. Eye-opening. Now, naturally, the majority of people are going to blame this all on Baker Mayfield because he's on his way out. Give it to Baker. Just shovel it right on to 6. Just keep going. Shovel it on to 6. We don't care about his feelings anymore. He's not one of us. Wait a minute, Baker. Wait a minute. Don't leave so soon. I hope you guys didn't lock the door. I hope you didn't lock the door. Because if Jacoby Brissett is the answer to your prayers, man, it is going to be a fun season. It's going to be regardless, it's going to be a fun season. It always is. And I'm the guy that hates talking football in March. But how can you get around this? How can you steer around all this juicy, just unbelievable sports talk on March 24th, 2022? You can't. Absolutely can't. Hooper was used as a third offensive tackle and paid like a top tight end. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Because the king of the check down, which was Baker Mayfield for the longest time, where he had the most success, I'm going to say it, he was sabotaged. He was sabotaged because Kevin Stefanski, who was, again, Coach of the Year, the savior of the Cleveland Browns, he sold out his own quarterback so he could have an opportunity at a $230 million guy that is going to be a absolute dud for Cleveland. A dud. That's a lot of money. Isn't there an All-Star game coming up? Yes, there is an All-Star game coming up on Saturday, Mr. Riccatelli. And in the second half of this show, right after this break, we're going to talk about some of the competitors for this All-Star game, as last night we had the 6-woman and 6-man announced. This morning we had the Defensive Player of the Years announced on the boys and girls side. And tonight at 8 p.m. we will release the Offensive Players of the Year for the boys and the girls. But of course, we can't get there without the All-Star game on Saturday. So without further ado, we'll take a break. We'll be back to talk about some of those players and some of the award winners here at YSN right after this break.
The Valley's top seniors shoot it out in the YSN All-Star Game. Girls tip off at 5 and the boys at 7. Saturday at South Range High School. Proceeds benefit Golden String.
New things happen all day. Some are good, some not so good. In today's complicated world, while you're busy working, playing, and living life, we're busy helping you make sense of the day's news. And there's only one place where it comes together with clarity, context, and accountability. It's 21 News at 6 with me, Madison Tromler, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 6. It's what the day's news really means to you.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring. And, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, shop with confidence knowing we're ready to go the extra mile for you. With the largest selection of used vehicles in the Valley, backed by the Greenwood Advantage Warranty. Every one of our vehicles has undergone our own 126-point inspection, so it passes the most important inspection, yours. No other dealership has the extra inventory, gives you extra for your trade, and goes the extra mile for you. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
And welcome back to the YSN Power Hour. DJ Yoakley with you. We turn the page to some local news now, as there is some accolades to be passed around here from the Your Sports Network. And the first one from yesterday was Jenna McClish winning the 6th Woman of the Year award, brought to you by YSN. Salem's Jenna McClish has been named the 2022 Your Sports Network's 6th Woman of the Year by the media company McClutch, as she's called here on the network. I wonder who calls her that. Spent her entire senior season setting the example on and off the floor, no matter if she was in the starting lineup or not. McClish took a staggering 8 charges on the season while diving all over the floor on loose basketballs, accepting matchups that she was severely overmatched just in size, but never in heart. Whether it was helping pick up a teammate or helping knock down free throws in clutch situations, Coach Hamilton always counted on McClish to step up. McClish helped lead the Salem Quakers to the OHSAA Regional Championship, where the Quakers fell just short against Norton, but the Lady Quakers finished with a 20-5 record on the season, and multiple times throughout the year were atop the power rankings on YSN. Jenna will also be featured in the YSN All-Star Game this Saturday, March 26th at South Range High School. So again, congratulations to Jenna on being the, I believe, first ever sixth woman of the year. So you are sitting there wondering to yourself, well, if McClish won it for the girls, who won it for the guys? Well, let me tell you, the 2022 sixth man of the year belongs to Poland's Noah Huda, who has been selected to this year's title. The junior appeared in all 26 of the Bulldog contest this season, chipping in 76 points total on this season, while also averaging 1.3 rebounds per contest and an assist and a half, as well as a steal per game. Huda was a lightning rod off the bench for Coach Fender in the Bulldogs, bringing great energy with a speedy guard and gave that offense fits trying to contain him. Defensively, he was a nightmare, as well as he was a true agitator that made guards think twice about handling the basketball. Huda helped his team earn a 17-9 final mark on the season and an 11-3 mark in conference play. Huda's talents will and should continue to grow with his playing time in 2023, making him one of the top prospects on the radar in the coming year. So congratulations to Noah Huda on becoming the 2022 Sixth Man of the Year. That's 2 awards. We got 2 more to hand out here on the Power Hour. One is going to be Katie Grexa of Badger. Okay, so Badger, one of those new schools that we have here at YSN, a school that I said from the jump didn't get nearly enough recognition, not just throughout the year, but for a long time. Badger has been flying under the radar, and that's about to change because Katie Grexa is your 2022 YSN Defensive Player of the Year. Grexa's monstrous season in 2022 was one that made opposing coaches green with jealousy. Every coach wishes they had Katie Grexa, but only one can have it, right, Lavelle? As the Lady Braves sophomore campaign consisted of her leading the team in several categories, more like all categories. In scoring, she had 16.3 a game, assists 3.7 a game. It was her defense that really made Grexa an All-Ohio selection and a slam dunk for Defensive Player of the Year at YSN. Grexa pulled down 12.2 rebounds per game. Yes, I said 12.2 rebounds per game on average, along with 5 steals, 2.4 blocks per game to boot. Simply put, Katie Grexa just got things done on both sides of the floor, but majored in defense to keep her team in every game. So congratulations to Badgers, Katie Grexa, on being selected the 2022 YSN Defensive Player of the Year. And again, you can see Katie on the hardwood one last time this year on March 26th, the YSN All-Star Game at South Range High School. So all of that considered, who gets it for the boys, you may ask? Well, let me tell you, Alex Rothwell, the stud over in Springfield, this 6'6" monster from the Tiger Nation, is your 2022 YSN Defensive Player of the Year for the boys. The senior standout struck fear into the game of his opponents on both sides of the floor, but defensively, he was on another level in 2022. The 6'6" frame of Rothwell posed problems to each of the teams that the Tigers faced this year, and Rothwell's constant motor gave Springfield an extra opportunities throughout the season that were capitalized on by everybody on that team on their way to a 24-2 final tally, as well as a perfect record in the MVAC. Rothwell's offense provided a 13-point performance per game, and the Tigers, while his defensive numbers popped off the stat sheets for the big man, Alex brought down 12 boards per game, along with 2 steals on average and 3 blocks per contest. Basically, he renamed himself Sherman Williams because he owned the paint. All of that leads up to Rothwell committing to Westminster College to continue his academic and athletic careers with the Titans in New Wilmington, Pennsylvania. For his efforts this season, we congratulate Springfield's Alex Rothwell for being selected as the 2022 Defensive Player of the Year. Offensive players. You might want to know who are the offensive guys that are getting it done this year, or who's the offensive girl that got it done this year. You're going to have to wait on that one. 8 o'clock, it'll come out tonight. It's already written up. It's already ready to go. 8 o'clock, we're going to make you wait to that. And then tomorrow, you will have we will reveal the most valuable players of the season. Now, it brings me to an interesting, and this was the talk around YSN. So I'll give you a little look behind the curtain. What makes an MVP? What is, like, to me, a most valuable player? You break that down. Most valuable player. There's so many different ways you can cut that up, right? And for me, the difference between an offensive player of the year, a defensive player of the year, and an MVP is that an offensive player and a defensive player are known for that side and that side alone. They are outstanding from, like, an offensive player, you look at points, you look at, assists, things of that nature. Defensive player, you're looking at blocks, steals, rebounds. But an MVP, to me, and you can tell me if I'm absolutely bananas here, but an MVP is someone who you can't win without. They do so many different things, and they're involved in so many facets of the game and aspects of the game that an MVP, they're most valuable because if you take them off your team, that team doesn't go nearly as far as they would without them, or with them, I guess. So when people look at MVP and they sit there and they circle it and they say, I'm the MVP, it means that I was the best player. I'm not exactly in agreement with that. I'm not taking anything away from the MVP. I'm not saying that when we reward this, that you're not the best player in the area. There's a ton of great players in the area, which is why we have to have 5 awards to get it out there. My big thing is an MVP is they take you from 4 wins to 16 wins, 4 wins to 12 wins, and they're the reason that you're able to do that. Let's get some questions here. MVP, if you take that player off a team, how would they do? Exactly. 100. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Upshire, who, by the way, right before the show, Josh decided, and I think he tried to sneak it in there because he knows I get ready for the show about 2:30. What a nice comment. I mean, just unbelievably kind comment that he put on Facebook about our staff at YSN and about me too, but really it's about the staff. It's all about the staff. You talk about supporters of what we do here at YSN. We are so fortunate to have so many different facets of support in what we do, from players to coaches to athletic directors to teachers to parents to fans to, I mean, you name it, sponsors. Can't leave them out, right? I'll be in big trouble. So thank you, Josh. You went above and beyond. All of that stuff is crazy to think about, and it's never been about us. It'll never be about us. It's about the kids. It's about the programs. It's about the student athletes. It's about bringing awareness to sports and the positive side of things in sports, which we'll get to in my spark today. But yeah, thank you, by the way. Thank you. So back to the MVP talk. MVP to me is exactly what Josh described, is if you take that player off the team, the team doesn't, it's like running with a flat tire. It's going to go, but you're not going to go as far and nearly as far doing it. So I know there's a lot of people that are anticipating these awards, and I know there's a lot of people that worked really hard to get awards during the season. The tough thing about it is we are not one of those organizations that give out awards to every single person that plays the game. And we don't necessarily always get it right. I'll be the first to admit that. But we look at awards in a different way. We look at awards in a way of who they're playing, how they conduct themselves on and off the floor or the field. Like, how do they play the game? Do they play it with an honor, with respect? We don't like putting in necessarily people that don't, because I don't think that that's a good light. And I'm not saying that there's many of those people out there, but we like to make sure that the kids, you want to talk about great kids, you're going to be looking at them on these graphics that we make up on YSN. And I'm not saying that the kids that don't make it aren't great, but there's a certain specialness to the kids that we choose because of not only what they do on the floor for basketball, but what they do off the floor, the kind of person they are, the kind of, they're always, if you look at these kids, they're always the one with their hand down if someone's on the ground, helping them up, no matter what uniform they're wearing. And not that should always go into, a defensive player of the year or a sixth man or sixth woman or whatever that is. But there's stories out there about these kids that sit there and it's the difference, right? So when I'm thinking MVP, it's what are you doing on top of all the great things you're doing on the floor? What are you doing out there without the basketball that sets you apart? What are you doing out there that really, when there's a 6-year-old in the stands that's kind of interested in basketball, what are you doing to make them want to wear your jersey when they grow up and they're 14 to 18 years old? That's the kind of stuff that I see for players of the year, for MVPs, for coaches of the year. There's a quote out there right now. Quinn Pushkar brought it to my attention on his social media platform. Every coach who's a coach right now is a coach because of a coach, right? Every coach who's in coaching right now got there because a coach influenced them to become a coach. So the coaches out there right now, the coaches that are in our all-star games, the coaches that are the coaches of the year, were influenced at some point in their lives by another coach that got them interested and said, hey, I could do that. I want to be that one day. Nobody goes and says, hey, I hate all the coaches that I had in my life. I want to go and be one. Nobody says that. It's always an influence from another coach that you had at some point during your life that you sit there and that could be a coach that goes all the way back to Little League, like we talked about the other day. So the next time you're out there and presenting yourself, whether you're on the coaching side, the player side, or the fan side, make sure that you're looking for those extra things, those extra little tidbits that are being done from a coaching standpoint, from a player standpoint, from a manager standpoint, from a referee standpoint, and from a fan standpoint, that make that person the kind of person that you'd want to be, or you'd want your kids to grow and be like. I know that there's a ton, and I cannot wait. I'm going to tell you this. This is going to be Saturday. Is going to be a great experience for everybody involved, but I am so excited for my son to be able to see 98 role models. And that's just the kids, not including the coaches. 98 plus 4, 8, 106 role models in that gym that he's going to be able to look up to and remember this moment for the rest of his life. And hopefully he wants to go and play sports. If he doesn't, that's fine. But hopefully he wants to be in this All-Star game one day. And he works to get into this All-Star game at some point in his life, whether it be baseball or football or basketball or whatever it may be. But he remembers how the kids, how these All-Stars treated him in that moment. And knowing that in, 11 years, 12 years, having him in that spot, he remembers the way that he felt. That's why the All-Star game and the basketball is so important on Saturday. It's the other things that I'm excited about. It's being able to present awards to these hard workers between the boys and girls game. It's being able to see them autograph for the future of the sport of basketball, for the future of YSN, for the future of all these things that we've brought together. I'm most excited for that. I'm excited for the event. I'm excited for the music that Jimmy Sutman is going to put on. I'm excited for the chance for all of us at YSN, for all of us that are partaking in the event, to be able to be part of the check presentation to our friends over at Golden String. It's the difference. It's being different that is always going to make you stand out. We talk about high school and how difficult high school is nowadays, and high school always has been. because you spend your entire young career trying to, in school and in basketball and in baseball and whatever sport it is, trying to fit in to a mold. And then when you turn 18, the entire world looks for you to stand out somehow. We're promoting people standing out in the positive ways. That's what YSN is all about. That's why this Saturday is going to be so great. So great. Because it's time that, yes, the student athletes are being honored, but we're also honoring the future. We're honoring the past. We're honoring our schools, honoring our coaches, honoring our fans, honoring our parents. That is what's going to make our All-Star game different. 51 schools represented between the two games. Couldn't be more proud. Could not be more excited. Could not be just more eager to be there and live in the moment. There aren't many moments that I get to live in, being the CEO of this company with 70 games a week and things of that nature. Saturday, I'm slowing things down, and I hope you do too. I am so hoping that you could come out and take in this game, fill up the stands at South Range, and we can give a big-ass check to Jimmy Sutman and be excited for the future of not only sports in our valley, but also great people doing great things in our valley, and Jimmy Sutman is at the top of that pyramid. So join me and our staff and all the great athletes and student athletes and coaches that are going to make their way to South Range High School at 4 o'clock when the doors open. Get a seat. I've got a crazy feeling that is going to be packed. I just have this feeling that there is going to be cheek-to-cheek situation at South Range. But I want to encourage you to bring signs. I want to encourage you to bring something for someone to sign, even if it's your own son or daughter. Bring something so you have it and you remember that moment. Or maybe they remember that moment. Bring it. Let's pack the gym. Let's make a great atmosphere. Let's make everybody walk out of that place feeling like $1 million. That's the goal of Saturday's event. And I hope that comes true. And I hope that you'll stop me and introduce yourself to me and tell me something that happened this year or something that happened in the last few years of YSN that helped you get through a tough time or a situation that otherwise wouldn't have been without us. Because I can tell you 50 stories about how important and how great your student athlete is, your son or daughter is to YSN, and how much we appreciate them and how big of fans we are of them. That was unscripted. So there you have it. Let's get to, I got to get to this comment too. This talk is why MLB stinks. I think Sigler was talking about football because we're talking so much about football because baseball is terrible right now. So let's get to our Joe Dickey Electric. What's your spark? And boy, golly, do I have a good one. It's the Joe Dickey Electric. What's your spark? Presented by our friends over at Joe Dickey Electric in North Lima. The one I have to bring to you. Now, I want to make sure I get this right, so hang tight with me. I got it right before we came on the air, and it was, where is it? It's this one. Okay, so it is this was in, it doesn't say where, Zeeland Schools. I don't know where Zeeland Schools is. But if you are friends with me on Facebook, I'll try to share it on Twitter as well. And we'll see if we can do it on our social media for YSN. It is a young lady who is blind, I believe. And there's she's shooting a short free throw. And there's an educator that is tapping a stick on a basketball, the back of a basketball hoop. It's the pole that keeps it up. So she's blind, so she can only hear. The entire crowd is silent, so she can hear the tapping on the back of this basketball hoop. And she has a young lady that takes her and twists her, so that way there's she's straight on with it. and then she just chucks it up off the square, and it goes in, and the place goes bananas. I did not do that any favors by explaining what happened to you. I consider myself a pretty doggone good play-by-play guy. That was awful. That was JV. You have to see it to appreciate it. It's something that'll warm your heart. It'll make you smile. It might make you tear up a little bit. Somebody might be cutting onions, or it might get dusty where you're at. It's one of those moments in sports, ladies and gentlemen, which is why we love sports. It evokes emotion, the good ones, and it's one of those just great moments in sports, why we love sports so much, and I hope you see it. Go and check it out. I think Max Preps is the originator for it, so go check that out. If you're friends with me on Facebook, it's out there. So, feel free to send me a friend request on Facebook or whatever, because I know it's kind of privatized right now. So looking forward to that. Please go check it out. It'll make your day. It'll make your day. I promise. I promise. I promise. I promise. And ipso facto, you being here on this show, riding shotgun with me, made my day. Tomorrow, do not miss the show. Do not miss it at all, because we've got a huge show for you. And when I'm talking huge, I'm talking one of the best football players in the entire state of Ohio. Mason Ludwig will join the show at 3:10. He signed his letter of commitment to Toledo today. So he goes from East Liverpool to being a Toledo Rocket. We'll talk to him about his whole journey, what that was like, and obviously going into his senior year. He's a 3-sport athlete, and he's really good at all 3 sports, and he's got the best opportunity to be a D1 athlete and continue his academics and athletics at the University of Toledo as an offensive lineman for the Rockets. So we'll talk to Mason tomorrow. We'll also talk to the Defensive Player of the Year, Mr. Alex Rothwell, tomorrow in the 3:30 hour. We'll talk to Alex about his commitment to Westminster College to continue playing, as well as the season that was under the first-year coach, Jeff Brink, and all the success that Alex and his teammates brought the entire season. I'm excited to sit down with Alex and kind of chop it up with him. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, we will have another guest in Jenna McClish, the 6th Woman of the Year, the first ever of its kind. With McClutch, we will sit down and talk with her. Jenna is one of the most excitable young ladies. We always have, because we're kind of bubbly in the same notion, we always have great conversations. I'm excited to sit down with Jenna and really chop it up with her about her season, her career, and what she wants to do as she prepares to graduate. But she's got some softball to tend to first as well. We'll talk to her about that as well. That's going to do it for the show. A packed show tomorrow. Do not miss it. Make sure if you miss it, you check us out on YouTube so you can get it back. We appreciate you, as always, stopping by. And as we do each and every day, we give you the salute and, of course, some sexy voice to listen to on the way out. See you guys tomorrow.
YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of Your Sports Network. For